The resilience and the perseverance and how you think about yourself is what is going to get you to push through those hard times and get to your goal. So confidence comes from doing hard work, learning new skills, getting better at it, getting good results, and then feeling like you want to do it again. Welcome to Girls Make Bank, the podcast show for women who want to learn the art of selling for business and for life. I'm Jack White, seasoned sales professional, entrepreneur, and owner of Honeybees Group. Come back each week to hear inspiring stories from some of our favorite business owners. Learn how to take the ache out of selling and make bank. We're all in this together, so let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Girls Make Bank podcast. Today, we are talking about something that every business owner struggles with at some point, and something that I'm really focused on this year. And this is how consistent, positive habits can drive real results in your business over time. We are going to talk a lot about consistency this year. It's my word of the year. It's a theme I am really leaning into. And the habits we have play a very direct role in how consistent we are in life and business. So as I was goal setting for the year, one of my goals is to read one book per month as a way to replace mindless social media scrolling that I have found myself really falling into a bad habit of doing. And I want to reclaim my focus. I want to reclaim my time and use it in a more productive way. As I get more deliberate about consistency, I realized that I actually need to focus on setting strong and healthy habits. And this relates to both business and my personal life. I want to work out more. I want to read instead of scrolling. I want to make healthier food choices. I want to be more deliberate about not having procrastination, doing things in my business. To help me do that, I wanted to revisit a book that I read a very long time ago, and it's such a great read. Actually, I listened to it on an audiobook, and I am counting that towards my reading goal for the year. But I am kicking off my healthy habits by rereading or listening to Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you have not read this book, I encourage you to do it. It is such a great, easy read. It has been incredibly helpful for me to reread it. And I want to just share some of my takeaways with you today. This episode is going to be all about how to use habits to grow your business, improve your sales, and actually show up daily for the work that matters. So let's dive in. The first key takeaway for me was this idea of goals versus systems. Here's why your goals aren't failing you, but your systems are. I love to set goals. We, as female entrepreneurs and service based business founders, we set really aggressive goals, revenue goals, growth goals, client goals. There's this powerful idea from Atomic Habits that really flips this idea of goal setting on its head for me. And it's this idea that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And this is so true and something that I've seen in my own business. So here's how this works. Goals give us direction, right? We can set a goal, right? We know sort of what we're working towards. But the system that we have in place is what is actually going to get us there. That's nuanced, but the difference actually means everything. Last year, one of the biggest investments I made in my business was hiring someone to build out my entire back end system. What I realized is I was doing a lot of work. I had a revenue goal, but my sales system, my sales process, the back end wasn't letting me get where I wanted to go. So, not having the right system is like wanting to win a gold medal in the Olympics for swimming and never actually jumping in the pool. So success doesn't come from wanting something, it comes from showing up again and again and again. Now, that can be a system that is a process and habits around your behavior. It can be a system that is a technology tool that allows you to run your business in a more efficient way. The key here is to remember that before we go chasing another goal, we really need to fix the systems that will actually get us there. Whether that is our behavior systems, whether that is our actual systems and process within our business, we need to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success with our systems. The second key idea from Atomic Habits, which directly ties to mindset and how we think about ourselves, is identity based habits. Don't get hung up on the actual goals. Become the kind of person who achieves them. So, this is the concept of identity based habits. And this is where mindset really plays a key role in changing our habits and our behaviors and our systems and how consistent we are showing up doing the work we need to do. There are three layers of behavior change. The first layer is outcome change. This is what we want. What do we want the outcome to be? The second layer is process change. What we do. How do we do the things that get us to the outcome we want? The third layer of change is who we believe we are. Most people focus on the outcome change. This is the clear goals that we typically set. This is the result we want, how much money we want to make, how much we want to save, how much weight we want to lose, all of that stuff, right? The result we want. The lasting change happens when you start acting like the person who gets that result. So instead of saying, I want more sales, you say, I am the kind of person who sells consistently. That is a simple shift from doing something to being someone. And when you change how you think about yourself, your habits that you choose, how you show up, and how you stick to it naturally changes as well. Now, I often talk about how mindset is really important. I think we've created this society and coaching industry around teaching people that mindset is the most important thing. I don't know that it is the most important thing. I stand by that. But I do believe that it is very important. How you think about yourself determines how you act and what you do in your life and in your business. I believe that confidence comes from doing the hard work. So, the really good mindset to build is around resilience and perseverance in order to achieve your goals and to create good, healthy habits. You have to do things that are uncomfortable. You have to do things that don't always feel good, that sometimes you maybe feel like an imposter doing. The resilience and the perseverance and how you think about yourself is what is going to get you to push through those hard times and get to your goal. So, confidence comes from doing hard work, learning new skills, getting better at it, getting good results, and then feeling like you want to do it again. So, I love what James is saying here because he's talking about reframing how you think of yourselves, not in terms of, I want X, Y, and Z, but I am someone who does this thing that I want to achieve. And that positioning really lit something up inside of me. I love the idea of speaking to myself and identifying as someone who does the thing or has the thing that I want to achieve. So, for this takeaway, I really invite you to think about the person you want to be this year in your work, in your personal life, in your habits, in your growth, and start living like that person today. Start talking to yourself and behaving like that person right now. We don't have to wait until we achieve the goal to start thinking of ourselves and believing in ourselves as that person. Start acting like it right now. That's the key takeaway for that second point. The third takeaway is something that I've talked about before. I think I did a previous episode about it, and I absolutely love, which is habit stacking for business. How to turn one good habit into a domino effect of success. This is one of the most actionable tools that I found in Atomic Habits, and it's about linking a new habit to something that you already do. So, in your business, that could look like after you have a successful sales call, send your follow up emails right away. After you have a client win, write a quick case study while that win is still fresh, or get on the phone or send out emails to people that are in your dream client list. The trick here is not just about discipline, but it's also about structure. So, this is one of the reasons why I think it can be really successful. One of my first sales managers, who is actually a dear friend of mine now, always told us to pick up the phone and call a new prospect immediately after winning a big deal or closing a deal or having a success. This is back in the day when we actually picked up the phone and cold called our prospects, and we had to, dial for dollars, we used to call it back in the Flintstone days. But the sentiment is the same today. When you have a win, the confidence, the emotion, the energy is already there for us to have another success. And so I love that advice and I often recommend it. And the opposite is true also. If you find yourself falling into a negative habit, if I find myself scrolling on social media, I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to say, okay, this is not the habit I want. When I do this habit, this is what I'm going to do to break myself of that habit in that time. So link a habit that you want to build or something that you want to stop with something that you do automatically. You want this to feel like a part of your natural flow. So in that way, our daily routine becomes the engine that moves our business and our life goals forward. So you're either tacking on a habit to a successful thing that you're doing, or if you find yourself doing something that you want to break yourself of that habit, when you realize that you're doing it, immediately have a next step that breaks that cycle right away for you. The next thing that I want to talk about is removing friction, changing the environment. This is one of the easiest ways to break a bad habit, is to actually change the environment. Here's how this has worked for me in a personal example. This is going to be another theme, I think. So I scroll on my phone all the time. It's something I'm trying to break myself of. I also do it in the middle of the night. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Automatically, I grab my phone, even when I don't want to, and I just scroll. I think we are all just too addicted to our phones. And even if I said, okay, I'm going to leave my phone here, when I wake up, I'm not going to grab it. Without fail, if I even just became semi conscious in the middle of the night, I would wake up and grab my phone. So I changed my environment. I now no longer sleep with my phone in the bedroom. I leave it in the kitchen. And that has changed my entire sleeping pattern. Do I still wake up? Yes. Do I still sometimes lie in bed awake? Also, yes. But I no longer am reaching for my phone. I am no longer scrolling in the dark. And that small environmental change has broken me of a habit that was robbing me of hours of sleep each week. So, what that means for me is it's actually easier for me to fall back asleep when I wake up in the middle of the night because I don't have all that, whatever kind of light it is from my phone that triggers your brain to wake up. I'm getting a better night's sleep. So that means I have more energy during the day. I'm making better food choices. I'm not moody, right? Because I'm not tired and I'm not cranky. I'm not drinking as much coffee in the afternoon, which also helps me sleep better at night. The cascade effect of that one environmental change has provided huge benefits to not only my business, but my life and my health. And so think about what environmental changes you can create that have a snowball effect in your life. Now, let's translate that to our sales work. If you have your inbox open all day and you are constantly just responding to emails all day long, maybe you don't have time to do sales activities or to do deep thinking work in your business. So, one thing you can do to change your environment is to maybe block out 2 hours a day where you're not looking at your email. You're closing that tab and you're scheduling a block where all you're doing is deep work in your business or sales focused activities. Another way to think about changing your environment is around how you're set up for success in your workspace. Do you have a ton of junk around you that is distracting you from doing your work? Do you have piles of laundry somewhere that you're trying to negotiate with yourself? Should I be doing laundry? Should I be doing my work? Should I be cleaning those dishes? Should I be doing your work? Take your computer and bring it to a space where you don't have any distractions and let yourself focus on doing the work that you need to do. Often the thing that is holding us back isn't motivation because we all want our businesses to succeed. It's our setup or our environment that makes bad habits easier to fall into. And so let's change our environment. Now, this next takeaway, which I love, is about the social layer. So, your tribe or your community has a lot more impact on your habits than you think because habits aren't just mental, right? They're also social. So, this is a truth that I don't think we often recognize enough. We model our behaviors based on the people around us. So, if your network of friends is always complaining, if they're negative, if they are gossipy, if they're overreacting to things that they can't control, you are going to feed off of that energy. You will have a dysregulated emotional system. Chances are you're going to gossip and you're going to complain and you're going to have a negative attitude also. So, do you know that saying your network is your net worth? That is what comes to mind here when James is talking about the social layer. And so I want to make sure that we are showing up in rooms and surrounding ourselves with people who have a positive influence on us, people that we aspire to be like, that motivate us, that we can learn from, and that are lifting us up. This can sometimes be harder than we think, especially with a lot of us working from home, and maybe there's not a big entrepreneurial community where you live. But it's also easier than ever to find the communities we want to be in because so many of these communities live online. So, to build strong habits, you have to put yourself among people who are already doing the things that you want to do. So, that means you can join an online community or an in person community of entrepreneurs. It means working with accountability partners who are going to hold your feet to the fire while also lifting you up and giving you positive reinforcement. It means attending networking events where there is action and progress happening inside that room. The takeaway here is that change becomes easier when your environment and your tribe is reinforcing the habits that you want to build. So I challenge you to look at the people you hang out with, look at the people you are turning to for advice and the people you are in community with, and ask yourself if these are people you aspire to be. And if they're not, go out and find your people because I guarantee you they are out there and they exist and they are waiting for you also. The next takeaway happens to a lot of us. I see this more often than not with women owned businesses when we start to see success in our business. And here we are talking about repetition and boredom that comes from being successful, which I know sounds totally wild, but hear me out because when I was reading this, I actually believe this to be true. The real enemy of success isn't failure, it's boredom. Habits become automatic when we repeat them over and over and over and over again. And something that we probably don't want to hear is that mastery can sometimes be boring. Once you've done something 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, it can stop being exciting. And that's when we can also be winning the hardest in our business. But it can feel boring. And sometimes in business, when things feel boring, we feel like we're not doing it right. And that's often why we feel like we need to constantly launch new offers, constantly change things in our business, reposition ourselves, find a new target market. A lot of us like the excitement and the challenge of starting something new. And honestly, I put myself in this bucket sometimes. We like the hard. We like the struggle. We like the figuring it out as a small business owner. And as crazy as it sounds, it's true. And entrepreneurs, in some ways, I believe, are just glutton for punishment in this way. Otherwise, we would like choose to do something else. But the key here is to realize that success doesn't come from doing big things once. It doesn't come from constantly doing the new. It comes from success over and over and over again. And sometimes that can be boring. Consistency is not always glamorous. Building healthy habits and creating routine isn't always exciting, but it is powerful and it will lead to long-term success. So the next time you feel like you need to launch a new offer, change something up in your business, I want you to be really critical as to the why you feel like you need to do that. And look at your data and look at your numbers and say, okay, am I making this change because something is not working in my business and I need to find a way to make it work? Or am I making this change because things are working too well and I'm bored? And if that's the case, yes, I'm not telling you to not do a new thing in your business, but be really careful about not breaking what's working in your business to find excitement in your business. Take up a hobby, go do something else. Keep what's working in your business. All right, we have covered a lot, and I want to wrap this up. If you want to grow your business this year, which we all do, I want you to think and start with consistency and a system that works. Today, we have talked about why systems matter more than goals, how identity-based habits shape real change, how to stack habits that move your business forward, why social circles influence your habits, and why consistency and sometimes boredom beats everything. If you have not read or if you want to reread Atomic Habits, this is a small, recap from my perspective. I encourage you to do that. If you are serious about growing your business this year, especially when it comes to sales, habits are your foundation. And if you need help building a sales system and the habits that will actually help you grow your business, I want to help you. Send me a DM, send me a voice note, connect with me on LinkedIn, find me at honeybeesgroup.co. Let's talk about how building systems can make consistency easy and the results inevitable, and talk about how we can grow your revenue and your profit this year. Thank you for listening. Think about your habits that are going to move your business forward today, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Make Bank. If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe, like, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Please review and share our show to help spread the word and help your girls make bank. And I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, or visit honeybeesgroup.co. Until next time, friends.